Welcome to the Prime Real Estate Network channel on YouTube. I'm your host, Mr. Prime Real Estate, Ric Davis.
And I'm your host, the Texas Real Estate King, LarryWBrooks.
Every week, the King and I will provide you exclusive access to our network of lenders, investors, and real estate professionals from both the commercial and residential real estate sectors.
Now, are you millionaire minded? Or maybe you're a millionaire in the making. Make sure that you subscribe so you can get connected to the network. And always remember, the Prime Real Estate Network, where millionaires are in the making.
Create wealth for generations.
What's up, Prime Real Estate Network listeners? It's your man, LarryWBrooks, a.k.a. the Texas Real Estate King. Hey, when you get a moment, go ahead and go over to shoplwb.com. You can see the Pure Hustle merchandise that we had over there, some of our newer items that we have in stock, and of course, I got all the books that I've authored. I'd love for your support. You have a great day.
Good day. Welcome to the Prime Real Estate Network podcast. I'm your host, Ric Davis. If you don't follow me on social media, I invite you to do so at Prime Real Estate Ric. If you're looking to buy, sell, or invest in residential or commercial real estate anywhere in the great state of Texas, but especially here in our lovely city of Houston, you can reach me directly on Instagram at Prime Real Estate Ric. As always, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you this week, and I'm so excited about today's episode. So I want to invite everyone in the audience, please get involved. If you're checking us out live on YouTube, submit a question in the comments section, and you may very well have your question answered on today's episode. As I mentioned earlier, today is a very exciting episode because not only is today our episode where we're going to talk about financial literacy and how to protect not only your property, your assets, but as an entrepreneur and a business owner to also protect your business. So take some time, text, DM, email, tap the person next to you if you're at work at the cubicle and let them know today's episode of the Prime Real Estate Network podcast is something that they definitely don't want to miss. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring up and wish everyone in the audience happy holidays. As you can see, today is officially the ugly sweater episode of the Prime Real Estate Network podcast. So everyone out there that's hosting a ugly sweater party or a holiday party leading in to this weekend and next week, I want to be there with you in spirit if I can't be there with you in body. So I want to make sure I wish happy holidays and a happy new year to everyone in the Prime Real Estate Network audience. I want to thank everyone over at Brooks & Davis Real Estate Firm, man. We've been doing a bang-up job as far as not only mentoring, but also educating and serving the real estate community, not only in Houston, Texas, but the entire state of Texas as a whole. Big, huge shout out to the Texas Real Estate King, Mr. LarryWBrooks. He's been doing some great things. And I also want to congratulate Mr. Thomas Mouton for recently being selected to be the chairman of the Houston Association of Realtors. So big, huge shout out to Mr. Mouton as well, man. Today's episode, I want to take some time to introduce our guest. This fine gentleman is not only an insurance expert, but he is also a sales coach. And he also takes the time to go out and help to mentor other business owners and entrepreneurs about how to protect your businesses, how to generate generational wealth, but also how to better serve your clients in whatever it is that you choose to perform from a business standpoint. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce this week's guest, Mr. Darnald Kimble Jr. How are you?
I'm well. How about you? Thank you, Ric.
Man, I appreciate you so much for sitting in with us, man. Like I mentioned before, man, I want to wish you and your family a happy holidays. I know how it is when it gets to the end of the year, but as entrepreneurs and business owners, we always got to keep our eye on the next horizon. So we're all getting everything geared up and planned for our 2024. And this is why everyone here at the Prime Real Estate Network is so excited to have you sitting in with us. So thank you again, sir.
Happy holidays to you as well.
For those who are meeting you, Mr. Kimble, for the first time today, could you just not only introduce yourself, but also introduce your business and enlighten us on the services and what it is that you do on a professional basis?
Absolutely. So my name is Darnald Kimble Jr., and I'm based here in Houston, Texas. And full-time, I represent Globe Life Family Heritage Division. I'm a field director with them. And I've been doing it for over a decade now, started back in 2010, and absolutely love what we do. We help and serve a lot of families. And basically, we do the opposite of health insurance. Because as you know, health insurance is good because it pays the doctors and the hospitals. But the reality is, it doesn't pay the whole bill. Isn't that frustrating? Like, you got your deductible, your copay, but the biggest kicker for most people is not being able to work. Because if you go through cancer or major accident, you can work for 6 weeks, 6 months or longer. You still got your everyday bills coming in, correct? And so that's where we come in, is we can cash directly to our clients when they go through something major, so they can use it however they need to. So they need to pay the light bills, garbage, food bills, cash in the bank account. And for people 55 and under, if they don't use it, we actually do what's called a return of premium. So that means they get 100% of their money back if they don't use it. Because we hope you never get cancer, we hope you never have an accident, we hope you never have a heart issue. If you don't, guess what? It's just a forced savings, right?
No, it's great. And I want to thank you so much for what it is that you do, because your service is something that's so greatly needed. And it's the type of thing that can be a life changer for those that are going through really stressful times, some of the toughest times that they've been through. You're throwing people a lifeline to not only support themselves, but to keep their businesses afloat, to keep their families buoyed. So my first question, sir, is, for those in our audience who may not have been educated as far as how prevalent these type of issues can be and how often people reach out to you, could you just give us some ideas from a statistical standpoint about how often you get calls from entrepreneurs and business owners that need to take advantages of the services that you provide and some of the programs that you market?
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm getting calls on a weekly basis from my clients that are going through one issue or another. So the reality is, the stats don't lie. For cancer specifically, it turns out 3 out of 4 families are affected by cancer. It's 1 in 3 men and 1 in 3 women. If I had 1 in 3 houses burning down, I think I would buy fire insurance. What do
Right.
you? So
Absolutely.
that's the stats for cancer, and it's for business owners. And it's kind of a double whammy for business owners, because not only do they have their personal expenses, but guess what? They have to maintain their business expenses too. And so if they go through some major like cancer, then they have to have that revenue still coming in. That's what we're doing. And for accidents, for people 44 or under, accidents is the number 1 leading cause of death. And for everybody, heart attacks and strokes, heart issues is the number 1 leading cause of death across the board. So it applies to business owners, it applies to everybody. Because you have a heartbeat.
The great thing. No, the great thing about what you mentioned is that I want to make sure we give you an opportunity to enlighten everyone in our audience about the benefit of those policies and the benefits of those programs. Because of course, the obvious benefit is if you were ever to be diagnosed with an illness or would have to not be able to work. But as a benefit that they could take advantage of or use, even if they are healthy, are there any benefits that comes with the program outside of having to reach out to you in those most stressful moments?
Absolutely. So our cancer, and I'm speaking for the state of Texas specifically. So for our cancer and our heart plan, if they have those plans, we have what's called a wellness benefit. So what that means is we'll pay them cash just to incentivize them to go do their checkups. Because most guys specifically, we don't want to do our checkups. If it's not broken, we're not going, right?
Right.
And so, but we know from a company perspective that the early you catch things, the better odds you have of surviving on the back end. And obviously, it's going to be less expensive on the back end too if you catch it early. And so that's when we incentivize our entrepreneurs to go do their checkups. Usually, the people at the top are the worst people to take care of themselves because they're taking care of everybody else.
Right.
We as entrepreneurs, always love the phrase. I've heard this over and over. A lot of times people lose their health or gain wealth, right? And then they lose their wealth in order to gain that health back. It's like, let's break that cycle to where the entrepreneurs could maintain their health while they're building their wealth. They don't have to stress out on the back end of losing their wealth because of health related issues.
It's amazing because as business owners, entrepreneurs, we all make it a foundation of our marketing to get out and network, meet other like-minded professionals. What is it that you believe is the main roadblock between business owners and entrepreneurs and yourself? Because you would think this would be pretty much par for the course for every business owner when they reach a certain level of success, that they want to make sure that they ensure that all the hard work they put in is protected, and that a small setback health-wise won't put them in a position to lose everything that they've worked so hard for. So why is it that you think that every business owner, every realtor, every mortgage loan originator, every appraiser isn't having these type of policies mandatory for not only themselves, but also the other members of their team?
Your guess is good as mine. I'm just as biased. Because honestly, I think it's stupid not to have something like this. The fact that it's there, if you need it, not we force you to save money, there's no skin off our clients' back whatsoever. And especially, you mentioned a lot of solopreneurs, right? The real estate agents, the brokers, like all these are solopreneurs. And they definitely need it, because if they're not working, guess what? They're not making money.
Right.
So that's where we come in. It's kind of while they go through something catastrophic. So they're not stressing for financial issues.
I thank you so much for sharing that, because there are so many things that, from a business perspective, when you're building your organization, that you want to make sure you have a great accountant. You want to make sure you have a great business attorney. You want to have marketing staff. You want to have a great personal assistant. But this type of product that protects your income is something that's either underreported, undervalued, but is absolutely essential when you're thinking about having something that's going to be here and last the test of time. So I want to talk to you about, because you're such a great salesperson as far as illustrating the value. How did it that you decided to invest time into educating other entrepreneurs and enlightening them as far as some of your techniques and how you illustrate value? And how did you get into the lane of being a sales coach as well? Because I think that's something that's really interesting, considering your background in insurance and financial services.
Absolutely. That's a great question. So I want to start off as I'm not a natural salesperson at all. And so I think that's what makes me a great coach. It's because people that are natural salespeople, they don't know why people are buying. They're just buying left and right.
Right.
They just keep going to work and people keep buying. But for me, I had to grind and grind and grind. And I know I look pretty young, but I actually just turned 40 this year. And I've been in sales for over 2 decades now. I started in high school in 2002. And my first sales gig was actually with Cutco selling knives. And they're really amazing knives, by the way. I don't know if you ever experienced.
You did a really great knife, right?
Yes. And how I got recruited is they told me that I could schedule these appointments and they'll pay me per appointment. And I didn't even know I was selling knives till after I got hired. And that blew my mind. I was just like, how did they just recruit me to sell these knives? And I didn't even know I was selling knives. And so that piqued my interest into rhetoric. Rhetoric is the art of persuasion. And I knew, like, one of your questions pre-show was, how did I become an entrepreneur? There's actually no entrepreneurs in my family. So I literally had the heart to start that because my mom gave me the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And that kind of planted the seed in my heart. And I always knew from high school that I wanted to start my own business. That was always the objective. Like, I didn't fall into it. Like, that's always what I wanted to do. Right. And it's funny because I applied to Baylor. I wanted to become an attorney, started a law practice. And so that was going to be my pathway. But when I was looking at the course catalog, I found out the business school actually had an entrepreneurship degree. And I was like, why wait? So I signed up for entrepreneurship as my major. And my grandmother gave me some flack about it. She's like, people start businesses and they don't have to go to college. And I was like, you're right. So I added a practical skill to computer science. But when I was in college, I was asking, Baylor's a really expensive school. It's a private Baptist university. And at the time, it was $20,000 a year. went up to my buddies, I'm like, Jordan, how are you paying for this expensive school? He's like, it's funny you ask. I had this crazy summer internship. You should come and check it out. I'm going a long way around your question. I'm coming back to your question. I didn't forget it. So he told me about this internship, and it was a 45-minute informational meeting. And they told me I got to run my own business during the summer, the 3 months during the summer. But I would be literally thousands of miles away from home. When I got out there, I'd be completely homeless. And I would be selling books door to door. And I was just like, wow, sign me up. Like most people were like, run the other way. And my parents were like, you're doing what? You're going where? With who? They were super skeptical from the jump. But I had a vision to graduate from Baylor debt-free. Like that was my goal. And I had to pay $20,000
that was your why,
a year.
right? That was your why.
That was my purpose. And so I ended up going through the first summer, made decent money. And after I showed my check to my parents at the end of the summer, they're like, go back and do it again next summer. So for a $100,000 university, I ended up dropping my minor, and adding a second major. I wanted to be a sales major. So this is my passion, like to be an entrepreneur and a salesperson. So this is what my training was through college, which is great. And so a lot of the things I teach now are things I've gleaned through college years. And when we sold books door to door, they committed us to work at a minimum at 80 hours per week. 80. I averaged about 84 hours per week.
Wow.
Right? You think you're going to learn a lot about sales, a lot about people if you're working 80 hours a week.
Absolutely.
12 weeks in a row. Absolutely. So I didn't do it for 1 summer. I didn't do it for 2 summers. I didn't do it for 3 summers. I ended up doing it for 4 summers. In the last 2.5 years at Baylor, I'm like, Mom, Dad, you don't have to pay a dime at my school. It's all on me.
Wow. You know, the great thing about your story is because I think we all as business owners, if we were able to be transparent and tell our whole career story, we all started out in sales doing something that a lot of people would feel was uncomfortable. But for whatever reason, you gravitated towards that. So as you're out and you meet other business owners and they talk to you about mentorship or signing up to learn some of your techniques, for those who may not necessarily be as naturally outgoing as yourself or may have anxiety as far as reaching out to cold call people or do door knocking, are there some initial exercises or some advice that you give those people? And could you share a tidbit, something that they may totally be overlooking, but could help get them over those initial fears of putting themselves out there?
Absolutely. I'll give you 2. So the first one is, and this is a phrase I share all the time with my personal team, is it's hard to be nervous when your mind's on service. It's hard to be nervous when your mind's on service.
That is a great one.
If you are nervous, you're only thinking about one person. Guess who you're thinking about? Yourself.
Yep.
Right.
Absolutely.
But if you're thinking, how can I love this person? How can I bless this person? How can I serve this person? Guess who you're not thinking about? Yourself. Right? So when people are nervous, they have a focus. Right? They're thinking, oh, how am I going to look? How am I going to sound? How is this going to be? It's like, no. How can I bless this person? How can I love this person? The Bible, I'm a believer into the Bible. It says perfect love drives out fear. And most people know that one. But they don't know the second half of that scripture. It says because fear has to deal with consequences. Fear has to deal with consequences. The reason people are afraid is because they're afraid of the consequences. Right? But if you're loving, you're like, whatever the consequence is, I don't care. I'm here to love you, right? So that's the first thing I'll share.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, please, because I was just thinking, you mentioned that you have a team, and it just is amazing to me how these techniques and your advice, it can help to propel you in different avenues of entrepreneurship. You don't have to be into financial services like you. This could work in real estate, mortgages, anything where you have to actually illustrate value to the public and show them how you're willing to serve and how they should choose you as the person to provide them that service. So it's amazing to me. But continue, please.
Absolutely. So this is a second technique, and it's very practical. And this is actually what the Navy SEALs teach their people. I was like, if it's good enough for the Navy SEALs, guess what? It's good for me. Right? So it's called the box breathing technique. So the box breathing technique is where you exhale for 4 seconds, you hold it for 4 seconds, you inhale for 4 seconds, then you hold it for 4 seconds. And then you can do that 3 or 4 times. And the reason that works is because when people are nervous, they take short breaths. And that's in your body, anxiety-inducing response. So that's when you're running, you're doing short breaths. But when you take deep breaths, your body's like, it's okay, you're safe. There's no present danger right now. And so it lets your body relax. So that's a technique I've taught a lot of my agents, and it's paid dividends.
And when you bring members on to your team, how intense, how often, how much do you put on them from an initial standpoint? Because I want to make sure that everyone in our audience who hears your voice, who understands your story, that's gravitating towards your message, feels comfortable reaching out to you and signing up for some of your sales coaching. Because I don't want anyone to feel as if, oh, I'm not ready, I'm too new, I'm too fresh, this may be too advanced for me. So for those new members to your team that are absolutely positively brand new to the organization, how are some of the ways that you go about helping them to get comfortable, not only learning from you, but implementing these tools? Because there's so many great things, like just your breathing techniques right now. I hope every member of our audience takes that and adds that to their utility belt, because that's something that you can implement today that I think will put you in a position where all the other things that you're teaching will tend to line up and make more sense.
Absolutely. So everybody has a different learning curve, and that's one of the biggest things I learned as a coach and as a trainer. And so you got to meet people where they're at. Like I've had people that they're just geniuses, and you feed it to them once and they pick up and run, which is, I love those people, but that's not me. That's not the average individual, right? So for most people, it's a grind. You have to be perseverant, you have to push through, and you have to spoon feed them. It's kind of like math. I love that analogy with math. When you go through kindergarten, they don't teach you calculus, right?
No, you don't.
They teach you, this is the number 1. This is the number 2. And then once you know your numbers, if you put 1 + 1, this equals 2. And so it's a process, it's a building block. So you have to know what the foundation is for your sales process. And then as your agent or your person that you're training progresses, then you add the next layer, and you add the next layer. But if you try to teach them calculus from day 1, guess what? They're going to get overwhelmed, they're going to get frustrated, they're going to say, I'm not good at math, and they're going to quit, just give up. And so it's a process of knowing where they're at and getting them where they're at.
You know, I want to thank you so much, because the thing that I was most impressed with about your brand, your organization, is that you not just teach someone how to fish as opposed to giving them the fish, but you also provide them with the world's greatest lure, the best bait, and make sure you set them up for success. So for those members of our audience, do you allow people to sign up online? Do they meet you at a conference? How would one go about scheduling some time one-on-one to talk to you and become a member of your tribe? Because it's like when you're mentoring so many people, it's almost like your family in a way. So how would one go about scheduling some opportunity to sit down, talk with you via Zoom, or even better, meet you personally?
Absolutely. So you could call me personally. My cell phone is 281-788-4778. Or you could go to my website. It's darnaldjr.com. And there's a form on my website that they can fill in. It goes straight to me, and I'll reach out to you. We can schedule either in person or Zoom. I'm open for both.
You know, and this is something, and I wish I had an opportunity to speak with you this in-depthly before I heard this information. Please correct me if I'm wrong, but I had heard, sometimes on social media, through watching the news, I believed, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the type of policies that we were discussing in the interview where it would help to give you a cash benefit if for whatever reason you weren't able to practice or weren't able to work, those monies that you invest in those type of products, are they something similar to other things that you may have as part of your business that you use to do business? Are there any positive tax ramifications? Are there anything from that standpoint that you could look at it for us entrepreneurs that want to make everything work for us to the maximum of its ability? Could you just go into how you've seen other entrepreneurs structure and add those products to what they already have to build their business and how they made that work for them financially?
Absolutely. So obviously, I'm not a tax advisor or anything like this.
Right.
This is just from stories that I've heard personally and what I personally do for my own taxes. It is so if the entrepreneur can choose to purchase these policies for their employees, and every employee is looking for benefits, right? Like,
right.
What benefit does this company offer versus this company? And so the bigger your benefit package is, then the better you'll be able to attract and retain the top talent. So that's the key, because if you attract the top talent and they say, oh, the grass is greener at ABC company, I'm going to jump ship, then you just wasted your efforts. So you're going to have the best benefit package, and we can help you do that. And so one of the advantages of that is if you do choose to provide it for them, it could be a tax write-off. And as entrepreneurs, we could use as many tax deductions as we can get, right, to reduce our tax basis. And so that's one of the biggest advantages that we have. Ours is post-tax. In addition, on the back end, let's say you bought our policy and you have to file a claim. Ours is a post-tax policy. So what that means is, say we paid you $100,000 because you went through cancer, you don't have to pay taxes on that $100,000 because some supplemental companies are pre-tax. So that means if you get paid $100,000, you have to file taxes on that $100,000 and pump you in a different tax bracket. So that's some of the advantages of having our product versus other companies.
No, I thank you so much for sharing, because I didn't even consider that part as a team lead and a business owner, that you could have some of those type of products as part of your benefit package. Because so often, especially in real estate agents, when they're interviewing brokers or when they're becoming recently licensed and they're getting out of real estate school, one of their questions are, what is it that your brokerage can provide to ensure success for me that other brokerages are not necessarily offering or can't provide? And I believe what you just mentioned is like a gold star for a certain percentage of business owners who want to know that this entrepreneur thing isn't going to be something I do for a year or 2 years. They want to make sure that the work they're doing now is building a foundation for not only now, but in the future, so that they can generate that wealth for their family for generations on top of generations and into the distant future. So I thank you so much, because I think as leaders, entrepreneurs, business owners, if you're trying to attract the best and the brightest, having a benefit package that shows that we are investing in you, not short term, but long term, I think is very, very powerful. So I thank you so much for sharing that with our audience, because I think that might be an aspect that a lot of time people may not consider when they're trying to figure out ways to wow those talented people. Because especially in a city like Houston, there are so many uber talented people moving here on a daily basis, that this is something that can not only set you apart, but also make you like that shining light to let the industry know this is where we all need to aspire to be. And I think if so many people followed your lead, it would help to build up the entire entrepreneur community as a whole. So I thank you so much for sharing that, man. That was really powerful.
we got to do whatever it takes to retain the top talent. Because, like you said, there's so many opportunities out there to make so much money in Houston that you have to do whatever it takes to get these people.
And I want to, because you have a great social media presence, and for everyone online that's meeting you for the first time during this interview, I urge them all to follow you on Instagram at Darnald Jr. What type of content can people expect when they follow you on Instagram? What type of information do you share online? And what is it that people can expect to edify themselves with when they visit your page?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So the Darnald Jr., I usually share a lot of personal, just lifestyle and things that are going on. But I also have my own YouTube channel, In Lit Live. It's INLITLIVE, where we talk about financial literacy also. And I stay in my lane. Like I said, I've been in insurance for over a decade now, so that's my lane. But I know quite a few people, and I'll bring them on the show, and I interview them live just like you are with me. And we educate people on how money works, because if our schools didn't teach us how money works, college, I have a Baylor business degree. They didn't teach how credit score work.
That's true.
What just happened? So that's what we do, and that's the type of content they can find when they go to social media pages.
And I want to thank you so much for making financial literacy your educational platform, because it's been a buzzword in our community for decades. But I've always tried to impress upon those that I meet in the community that we are still underserved from that perspective. I urge not only yourself to continue what you're doing, but those that you mentor, those that you meet, is to continue your work and try to expand upon that, because in those underserved and undereducated communities, financial literacy is something that everyone can use to close that wealth gap that's developed in America over centuries and decades. How often do you actually have a chance to meet people who interact with your YouTube channel in person? And what type of messages do they share with you about how you affect them and how they've added your direction and tutelage to their business? What type of interaction do you have with the public when you go out?
Yeah, one of the stories that I can share with you is I did an episode about Medicare, and for people at 65 and older, and obviously this might not apply to business owners, but the fact that they had no idea how Medicare works, that there's different parts, A, B, and C, and D, and they're like, what are those? The confusion is real. And so to be able to share light on how Medicare works, and of course there was a PS my guest that shared the information, which was phenomenal. She did great. But that's stories like me that keeps me going, that keeps me educating people on how money works. And I'll get comments every now and then when I do go to network events. They're like, "Oh, I watched your show. It was really good. Keep it up." And so that's what brings me joy. Like, I don't care if I get paid or not from YouTube or whatnot. It's just like, we need to educate our people. To your point, the difference between where we're at and where we want to be is not just education, but application of that education. That's called wisdom, right? So, but you have to have the knowledge in order to have the wisdom, right? So I'm helping with the front end of it, with the application where the rubber is, right? You don't apply it, then you might as well not have known it.
No, I want to thank you so much, man. So please share with our audience your website, how to find you on YouTube, and any contact information you feel comfortable with providing here, so that everyone in our audience that would like to meet, greet, interact, and edify themselves with your education can do so starting this very day.
Absolutely. Like, my show is really easy to find. On YouTube is my primary platform. It's finlitlive.com. FINLITLIVE. But we broadcast live to Facebook. We also are on Twitter. We're on Instagram. And we're also on LinkedIn. So you can find me on any of those platforms. You can find my show on those platforms. And then I just found out that StreamYard broadcasts live to Instagram. That's a new feature for StreamYard. So we're going to start implementing that. Super excited about that.
Oh no, man! I look forward to seeing you streaming live on Instagram, man. Mr. Kimble, I want to thank you so much for your time. Please keep us abreast of anything that's going on in your world, anything in the insurance spectrum. If you ever have anything coming up, man, please keep us tapped in. We want to share that with our audience, man. We want to make sure that everyone who watches the Prime Real Estate Network knows that you are a trusted resource and that they can go to you with any of these type of questions, man. So we want to make sure that we help to close that wealth gap and let everyone know that financial literacy is something that we all should strive for. And in your words, sir, we got to make sure we have that education and that application, man. So thank you so much, Darnald, man. I look forward to talking to you soon, sir. And I thank you so much for sitting in with me this week.
Thank you, Rick, for the opportunity to speak to your audience. And thank you for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're a busy guy. So.
Oh, no, man. It was an honor and a pleasure, sir. Thank you so much, man. Be blessed.
Yes, sir. You too.
Thank you. Man, great interview, man. Just a reminder, that is Mr. Darnald Kimble Jr. of Globe Life. You can follow him on Instagram at Darnald Jr., DARNALDJR on Instagram, man. If you ever need to contact that gentleman, man, if you need to, you can reach out to me via DM. I'll make sure I connect you all because the information that he has, man, is great, is very profound, and it can take your business and your family to the next level. So I want to make sure we do everything we can to support this gentleman and his movement, man. Big, huge shout out to everybody at Brooks and Davis Real Estate Firm, man. We have some really exciting things planned for this week. Now I want to give a big, huge shout out to the Texas Real Estate King, Mr. Larry W. Brooks, man. And until next week at this same time, everyone in the Prime Real Estate Network audience, please be safe and be blessed.